Hi, welcome to the Property Show. I'm Jayashree Kurup. I'm editor MBTV. I have with me a very special guest, Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani. He's president NAREDCO and ASSOCHAM. And thank you, sir, for joining us. Today, we're talking about the RBI loan restructuring. What does this mean to the home buyers? Actually, let's talk about what it means to the industry so that the home buyers get their houses. Dr. Hiranandani, what is the significance of this announcement that the RBI is restructuring, is allowing loans restructuring?
Okay, so Jayashree, the most important factor which has actually impinged the industry is the fact that liquidity is not available to projects, partially due to many of them getting stuck, many of them moving into NPAs, and some of them even going into NCLT. So the monies are just not available to them in order to complete the project. So everybody's suffering. The developers are suffering, the buyers are suffering, the people who have earlier lent money into it or put inputs into the projects are suffering. So there is a kind of a standstill, a kind of a coma into these projects. We have been therefore asking for two things. Number one, the alternate investment fund, which would be give the last mile funding, which came in the format of the Swami Fund to start with of 25,000 crores. And the second was a one-time rollover of the projects where credit has been given either by the banks or the NBFCs or HFIs. Now, all this really was being considered for a long period of time. And we at NAREDCO, at ASSOCHAM, had been knocking at the doors of the finance minister, at the doors of the Mint Road RBI governor, but actually to no avail. So we really were very happy and pleasantly surprised that we finally got this statement from the governor that he's agreed to the one-time rollover of the loans, which does mean that that the banks will then be able to restructure these loans in order to see that more time is given to these projects on terms and conditions which the KV Kamath committee will finally decide how it should be done, and also subject to certain terms and conditions which probably will mean a haircut by the developers or so on and so forth, or some other additional terms and conditions to be provided. So I think that is a very, very big story in the sense that a large number of stuck projects, which may not get money from the Swami Fund, could now get it from the banks and financial institutions too. Second, there are projects which are not stuck, but they're indefinitely delayed because of COVID and other situations. Demand also is taken a beating. So based on that, I think it will be a fantastic thing and good news to industry to say that they will be able to go back to the banks and financial institutions in order to restructure these loans and give more time for payment, more installments for payment, and also get additional funding in order to complete these projects. So all these would be factored in the restructuring program. Again, I reiterate by saying that Mr. KV Kamath will and his committee will decide as to what are the terms and conditions under which this would happen. But it's good news.
Sir, you've been asking for this restructuring for a while. What changed now?
I think what was earlier was a belief that industry didn't need it. And they were asking for something more than what was needed. I think now it has seeped in that it's not possible to do it without the restructuring. Incidentally, let me share with you that it's not only real estate, it's across the board. So as ASSOCHAM president, I'm equally happy that it is relating to all industry to be done. MSMEs had already been happened in terms of earlier notification in January. And now this notification which has come will the committee's decision at the governor level, at that committee, I forget the name, which actually will give this permission to do so. But I think the idea was that they realized that without that, not only will these projects not get done, but also there would be a huge crisis both in industry as well as in the banking and financial system. So I think it was necessary to do it. But I believe that we are grateful that the governor finally acceded to our request, and it's going to happen.
So, when you, even without the Kamath committee report, are there any more details that we can share with the consumers? The industry, of course, does understand, but today we've got a large number of consumers. When there's a project, who approaches whom? How is it done? Can we go through the details a little bit?
Well, the first thing is that these type of restructuring was done in 2008. So we have a precedent, and terms and conditions under those are available to us. But the KV Kamath committee is bound by those conditions. So it would be futile to make a proposition that what the conditions were given in 2008 are the same things that Mr. Kamath will approve. That's not, and it's not likely to be either. We do expect that there would be a pragmatic approach in view of the fact that it is that there are different types of projects, and these are at different stages of completion, and also the fact that whether industry would be in a position to comply with those conditions. So let's presume that they would ask for an additional fund to come from, let's say, the developer or the project proponent or whatsoever in the case of industry. Now, whether they are actually capable of coming up with such inputs or not, we don't know at this point of time what those conditions would be. But obviously, there will be terms and conditions which will be there. And there will be healthy conditions to will make it pragmatic to complete the projects. So, and once the projects are completed, then obviously there will be an issue as to who will take the haircut, the developer, the person who is in the institutional background. If tomorrow the project is not completely satisfy each and every part of the people, there will be projects which will be positive net worth, as well as there will be a surplus which will be available, which will go to the developers. But ultimately, we have to see whether all this will ultimately result in a surplus. Let's presume it results in a surplus, and everybody is very happy, no issues at all. But let's presume it doesn't result in a surplus. Then who takes the haircut? How much does the haircut take place? All these issues will have to be considered. May not be at the KV Kamath's committee report, but it may be ultimately the bank's board would also decide between the board as well as the developer. But the broad outline and guidelines will be given by Mr. KV Kamath's committee.
Sir, in 2008, when there was a restructuring, and that is what the bankers have been quoting for a long time, it did result in some kind of problems in the banking sector. It wasn't a huge success, right? Many developers came out of the red, were able to go to completion, but the common thing is that there were not enough safeguards. What kind of safeguards do you think should be there?
No, I don't agree with you. It's not a correct interpretation. The real interpretation was that, but the banks did do it, and in most cases, there was no problem whatsoever. It was only an abuse by some of the banks which has been flagged off. Now, somebody commits a murder doesn't mean that everybody in the country is going to sit down and murder somebody. So I don't think it's a right proposition to be done. But yes, the reason is that we need to build in safeguards whenever we carry out some exercise. And that is exactly why this proposition has come about. But I don't agree at all to say abuse will always happen. Even if you provide 1 million safeguards, somebody is going to bypass 1 million safeguards and then do 1,000,001. And the rest of the 1 million people will sufferance unnecessarily because there are too many safeguards which actually make it impossible to do the transaction. So I think they have to be pragmatic and realist. And yes, we must see to it that nobody actually abuses it. But nobody in any system whatsoever can be 100% sure that nothing wrong is ever going to happen. And it has never happened like that. So I don't think it'll, you can provide that kind of safeguards today. And I hope Mr. Kamath doesn't go to the other extreme of providing excessive safeguards, which would mean actually that transaction will not get completed.
So can you take us through this loan restructuring? The company which is under stress today, when it asks for loan restructuring, help us understand how that is going to impact the business.
Jayashree, it's really difficult to explain this because no two companies will have the same problem. So let's say a company has just started a project and they have invested a little bit, loans have already been sanctioned, but the project is not being able to take off. Then there will be a different sort of restructuring completely. But let's presume it's somebody where all the flows are completed, only little internal work is remaining to be done, and those will complete it, and sales are sufficiently, their clients have done. Then the last mile funding is very easy to give. So these are two extremes of the pendulum, but you will get lots of cases in between. So let's presume that if it is the last type of case, I don't see any problem in the restructuring. It will happen very quickly, very fast, and there should be possibility of getting the additional funding also in order to complete it. The second part of the funding would be where the projects are not likely to be done, even if it is restructured. Those are the type of cases which will not get restructured, but will go into NCLT as and when the ban is lifted. So that those you can't help. But 90% of them will be the ones where we will be able to restructure and be able to complete the project, and the project proponent of whoever it is who has developer to do it could combine the funds in respect of more than one project and then really come to a restructuring process, which is otherwise not available due to RERA.
Yes, that's right. In fact, that's what I was going to ask you. What is the role of the NCLT, the RERA? We have a multiplicity of authorities that are monitoring the real estate segment. So how will that function in this era, and what is the role of it?
Yeah, so basically when you get into a restructuring program, it's only the credit issue that really has to be sorted out by the financial institution, not the entire project proponents. Right. While in the case of when you go to RERA, all the issues have to be adjudicated under the law. So there is a clear-cut law and as to how it is to be followed, and the judiciary has no actual ambiguity in about how the decision making will take place in a particular project. While in the case of restructuring, there will be a flexibility because it's only about the kind of inputs of money, which is the debt which has to be taken care of. And that's the easiest part of the whole deal. In one case, there's a judicial decision as to whether this has to be done by the developer or the owner or whoever is doing the project. And in the other case, it's a matter of the banking system providing finance to such a project.
So this is the first time that the consumer loans also have been, they've allowed consumers to restructure their loans. Banks can consider that. Isn't that a big step forward?
Of course. Individuals see this COVID situation is so bad that it has affected everybody across the board. Whether it is individual, whether it's partnerships, whether it's LLPs, whether it is farmers, whether it is workers, whether are salary people, whether are specialized sectors like real estate, like hospitality, hotels, aviation, a huge amount of negative has happened. Hence, this restructuring became very, very, very important. And there was no other way. How could you have the ticker of the loan going on when business was not happening? When the hotel was closed down or the projects were closed down or no workers were available on the site. So obviously this also had to happen. It's only a question of, okay, when do you decide that it should happen? And how much should it happen? On what terms and conditions should it happen? That's all. I mean, the fact happened was a surety. There was no options. Of course, we needed the permission of the governor and his guidance in order to really have it. But I was very sure, and we were very sure, both in NAREDCO and ASSOCHAM, that this had to happen. And in fact, I must share with you, Jayashree, that both CII and FICCI have fully 100% supported this matter before the governor and before the finance minister of India. So it's not just the real estate, it's not only ASSOCHAM where I head both those institutions, it was across the board. And we had quite an inning to see everybody speak the same tone and same tune, so to say, in terms of representations to both the government as well as the Reserve Bank.
So how is the real estate? This is across the board for all industries. How is real estate different? It's a unique industry. It has short-term capital requirements, very long-term gestation period. So how is this industry different, and does it need to be treated differently?
So, Jayashree, that is exactly why you can't have one solution fits all. You really have to see that projects of different types, locations will have to be treated differently. And those actually should be decided by the banks or financial institutions which are dealing with the project, not by the Reserve Bank. But the overall umbrella of guidelines will become important, which is the ambit within which such restructuring can take place. So that was there even before. So it's not going to be the first time it is. The only thing is, this last time we didn't have a separate committee to decide on it. RBI decided on its own, and it worked fairly well. Actually, I don't know why this notion goes about by keeping on saying that, oh, that went wrong at that time. I think it just went wrong in a couple of cases where there was abuse, but not otherwise. Otherwise, it did work, and it worked fairly well for most of the cases.
So now you've got 4 or 5 funds. You've got the Swami Fund, which has started disbursing. You've got there are other banking solutions that are coming up. The HFCs, NBFCs, that problem is also getting resolved. And today you've got the restructuring. Between all this, is there something that is unaddressed in terms of finance to complete project?
Jayashree, actually not. But I can tell you that we have gone a long way. So a good thing has happened. When we addressed the issue of Swami Fund, when it was before the Finance Minister of India, I had represented that we need about 25,000 crores of rupees in order to move all these projects and be able to bring large number of projects to fruition. And she was good enough to sanction it and also contribute 10,000 crores of rupees of central funds to it, the Central Government of India funds. Today, the requirement of all these funds is 1,50,000 crores, not 25,000 crores. But we don't need any subsidy from the central government. We can get it done. And on the same lines as the AIF created, that is the Swami Fund created, we should actually allow various banks and financial institutions to create them. And this is comfortable because most of the banks and financial institutions are ready to lend under those circumstances. So all they have to say is other banks and financial institutions who want to go analogous or on the same lines of the Swami Fund can put up these funds. There will be a huge amount available. My view is that we will be able to raise 1,50,000 crores of funds, which would be able to do. Some of these funds will be more for smaller players, some will be for larger players, some will be for projects which are only having very small percentage to be put in. Though other projects will be even those which are stuck at plinth level. Others will even be important for the purposes of consolidation and purposes of it or takeover of such projects. So I think what is necessary is to provide an umbrella similar to what was done for Swami Fund, to allow all financial institutions to set up such funds to do it. And there are a large number of foreign investors who would be also happy to co-invest into these funds. So I don't think there's going to be a dearth of money. But so we need to put this umbrella into place or this facility into place to allow other people to do it also.
And the Kamath committee will have an operational view of who gets the fund and so on? Will there be a committee that will...
I don't think so. The banks will themselves or the financial institutions will decide, but the policy under which or the terms and conditions under which it will be done will be set by the KV Kamath committee. So, I mean, he has a huge amount of experience. So I'm actually very comfortable with his appointment in terms of this problem, because he's been at head of ICICI and also at the fund and the bank in Shanghai where he head the other brick bank. And I think he's got a huge experience into all these matters. So very comfortable that he's appointed.
So with so much money coming in, the first round we saw that when there was a lot of money, there was not enough monitoring of how that money was being utilized. What kind of safeguards do you think that it needs to have at the banking level? The bankers have been a little lax, which is why we have seen a lot of problems on the ground. What kind of tightening do you think?
Jayashree, I don't agree with you again. The problems which have been has been the economy. Look at it. We had a demonetization followed by GST, followed by RERA, followed by the NCLT. Then we followed by the problem or disaster which took place in the case of ILFS, followed by COVID situation. Now, if you can't really blame either the developers or the banking system for something which is external to them. Now, if today there is a COVID situation, you can't say, "Arey, he fell sick, he should be at fault for that." It's nonsensical. So I don't agree with you at all. I think the situation is external. Yes, they have the developers have not been prudent. That is a fact. In some cases, there have been diversion of funds, which is a fact. But those were the kind of practices which worked in those days, and hence we are doing it. So anybody who has done that type of malpractice certainly will not be given more money by the banks. So it's up to the banks to see that their money is given, is safeguarded, and do it. And if they don't want to do it, there is no compulsion. It is an enabler. The restructuring is not compulsory for the banks to do. There is no mandate that they have to restructure. It's an enabler which helps the bank in order to restructure without marking it as an NPA in their banking system.
So what I was referring to was that you have seen lending of almost 90%, whereas the work on the ground is only about 30, 40.
Yeah.
That kind of mismatches have happened in the system.
But that is called fraud. I mean, frauds will continue to happen and people will murder even if there is a death sentence there for a crime. So I'm not here to answer those cases for the simple reason that if you start preparing and believing that every developer in the country is a fraud, then you shouldn't lend any money to any developer and you shouldn't allow developer to do any business. You should then take it over and let the government construct all the houses. But if you leave it to the developer, there will be many who will be good, but there will be some frauds in the country. But aren't there frauds in politicians or bureaucrats or any field of activity? There are frauds, and that will continue to be, and the law will take care of them separately. So there's a penal code which will take care of such issues, and they should be punished. I mean, there is no question about that part. But I don't think we should mix up these two.
So one final question for consumers, with all this finance available for the industry, do you see that this situation of, the legacy problems getting resolved maybe in the next 1 or 2 years?
Of course, I do believe that this COVID will also get over. I'm hoping that by December we resolve it either by a herd mentality or getting a vaccine. So I think 2021 should be a better year, much better year. And I'm hoping that it will be a positive year. Once you have a positive year, the demand will come back because the large number of projects are not only stuck because of the funding, but also for a lack of demand in those sectors. So I think that also will return back. I'm talking about across the country. We are already seeing green shoots of demand in our projects. So we are already seeing it right now. So it's not that things are not beginning to happen. So I think over a period of time, maybe 6 months time plus, you will see a lot of positive action taking place in real estate and also in the other industry. So we hope that by December, we will see an opening up of hospitality, hotels, travel, tourism, airlines, aviation, and all these other factors, which is also important, including restaurants, individual places of going out and people to eat and stuff like that. All this is important. So it's not only real estate.
Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Jayashree. Thank you.